Dialogue. Dialogue can be used for many things, and creating tension, conflict, and dramatic moments in your stories is only the start of it. Dialogue isn't just about exchanging information, it's a powerful tool that can build layers of tension and drive conflict between characters. See, the way characters speak to each other and sometimes what they don't say can turn an ordinary scene into something truly gripping. We pay attention to how people speak, when people speak, and why people speak. So what makes your characters clash? What makes them reveal hidden truths? And what builds stakes? So I have a slew of techniques to make conversations feel more natural while still carrying the weight of unspoken emotions and motivations. Now, the thing is, whether it's an argument that's been simmering for chapters or a subtle exchange loaded with subtext, dialogue can be more than words. It can create conflict to your scenes and pull your readers in and keep them hooked. So we're going to talk about how to use dialogue to create tension and conflict in the story. But Thomas, what is tension, conflict, and dramatic moments? You know, we need to define what we talk about. So I think that's a great question. Let's see. To know what we're talking about, let's start with tension. Tension, for starters, is the feeling of anticipations, okay, or anxiety that keeps readers on edge, wondering what will happen next. In dialogue, tension often arises when characters are holding back, hinting at deeper emotions, or when there's an unspoken element to the conversation. Anything that informs you, the reader, of information without resolution is tension. This can be in the form of action or words. The actions would be they are running away from someone. Do they get away or do they get caught? Well, if they get caught, then they fight. While they're fighting, the tension builds. Will they win or will they lose? All right? Because we are informed that they are running away from somebody, but it hasn't been resolved yet. Resolution deletes the tension. So the longer you can keep the tension building, the better. However, you need to know when to cut the rope and let the tension drop so you can resolve the moment. Now, when it comes to dialogue or information, if you, the reader, understand that two characters are, let's say, potentially in love, they like each other, right? The tension is will they, won't they? If they are friends, but you know that one friend slept with the other friend's partner, but didn't say anything yet, the tension is will they, won't they find out? Will they, won't they say anything? Let's say they do say something. The friend goes, hey, listen, I slept with your partner. We need to talk about this. Now the resolution stops for will they, won't they find out? And now the tension starts building on what? Starts building on how will it turn out? Will the friend be angry? Will they be angry and attack them? Will they let it go? Will they live and let live? What will they do? Well, let's say the friend says, "Well, you know what? Look, I get it. I get it. Her and my partner and I are not getting along. It's bound to happen. If anybody, I'm glad it was you." Right now, you know the information that the other person, the other friend, feels like the tension is gone because they're like, "Oh, they were okay with it." But if in the scene you learn that the friend who said they were okay with it was not actually okay with it, but the other person doesn't know, now new tension builds because you know that this person is actually not okay with it. And what will they do? Okay. So tension is usually and most likely the information you are given without a resolution to it. And how long can you let it last before you knock it down? Okay. Conflict, on the other hand, is when two or more characters have opposing desires, goals, or viewpoints. It's the clash that drives the story forward. In dialogue, conflict can be as direct as an argument or as subtle as a disagreement in tone or body language. Conflict reveals character motivations and adds stakes to the scene, making the story more compelling. And when I say stakes, I don't mean wood. The best way to explain conflict, right, is you have the straightforward, I'm going to fight you and you're going to fight me conflict. It's, I think red is better. You think blue is better. Conflict. Um, you know, I give a speech. You don't agree with that speech. Conflict. Even though both people don't know about the other person's position, there's still conflict because you, the reader, know that this character doesn't agree with the speech that was given. So if they are ever in the room, you know they have opposing positions. Okay. So conflict is just simply anything that puts two or more characters at opposition. It doesn't always necessarily have to be negative, by the way. The red and blue thing is a great example. You and I could be best friends. I like red, you like blue. We just disagree with that. It is conflict, but it isn't extreme. We're not gonna. It is not gonna be the midpoint conflict. It is not gonna drive the story, but it is conflict. So when you think of conflict, it doesn't always have to be negative. It can be a positive conflict as well. And by positive, I just mean like it's not going to destroy anybody. No one really. So what? You like blue and I like red, but it is a conflict. All right, dramatic moments. Dramatic moments are the climactic points in a conversation where emotions peak, secrets are revealed, or a decision is made. These moments often carry the highest stakes and leave a lasting impact on the characters and the readers. They are the turning points that shift the direction of the narrative, often arising naturally from built up tension and conflict. So basically, if we go back to the tension, one character, you know, as the reader, this character slept with their best friend's partner. The tension is, will they find out? Will they not? But the friend is like, look, I got to tell you something. I slept with your partner. Now, the conflict is we have opposing positions. I wish you didn't do that, and I'm sorry I did do that. So then why did you do it? Now the dramatic moment opens up and we get to see it play out. What is the circumstances and the consequences of relieving the tension, relieving the information that we knew and allowing both parties to know it? Or more importantly, again, if they're in a chase, will they, won't they catch them? The tension is relieved because we find out that they do get caught and they know that they got caught. So that's resolved. Now, are they going to fight for their lives or are they going to just submit? Okay. But how to craft dialogue that makes your characters clash, reveals hidden truths, and builds stakes? I always say it, and I'm a proud speaker of it. You got to let characters clash. All right. Whether it's their goals, their motivations, or their positions. To craft dialogue that makes characters clash, start by giving each character a clear goal, a position, a desire, a motivation, whatever the case is. And that becomes the conflict, the disagreement. Okay. When characters have opposing motivations, positions, etc., their dialogue will naturally lead to tension and conflict because you, as the writer, as the author of the dialogue, it's your job not to resolve that once the information is told. You can do it, but then it's not compelling, and you have to say to yourself, "Well, why is this here?" Um, if person A reveals that they are the one who released the Ebola by accident, even though it's accident, they finally come out and say, "I did it. It's been out there for 4 days. I should have said something sooner. I was scared." They have to have a conversation about it. You can't just have the other people be like, "Don't worry. Oh, it'll be fine." It's the same thing as if like, "Hey, listen, I think I took your wallet yesterday. So is this yours?" And they like, "Yes, it is. Thank you very much." But what are the consequences of the wallet being taken? Yeah, maybe they don't fight, but Was there information in that wallet? Was there money in that wallet that was the only way they could get to it because of the debit card? Whatever the case may be, maybe they get pulled over and their license were in that wallet, so they have to pay a ticket. Now, the conflict can be that they're like, I know it was an accident, but I got a ticket because of this. So now the friend has to decide, well, am I going to pay for it? And they're like, well, if you want, I'll go to the court and I'll tell them that I had your wallet by accident. And then they go, and then the judge is like, hey, listen, it doesn't matter. You had no license. You're in trouble. So now the friend has to be like, don't worry, I'll pay for it. Right. So imagine that was a story, and they're like, hey, I took your wallet by accident. Oh, don't worry about it. I got a ticket, so I got to go to court and deal with that. I'll go with you. Okay, great. We get there. It doesn't matter. You still have to pay the ticket. Fine. Hey, don't worry, buddy. Since I had your wallet, I'll pay for it. Like that. We don't need to see that story. It's okay to do that story, but what drives the reader? What drives the narrative? That tension, that conflict, the resolutions to those tensions, right? So you need people to clash. So whatever their opposing views are, or whatever, at least allow them some debate back and forth. Even if it's a half a page or 2 lines or 3 lines, any little bit, at least some resistance. It doesn't have to be a book long of resistance. It just has to be some resistance, okay? Some. All right. Subtext to reveal hidden truths. Subtext is such a powerful tool, and I have a video on subtext. I recommend watching it, not just because I want the watch time, but because I love subtext and I do some fun stuff in that video. But subtext is indeed a powerful way to reveal the hidden truths in dialogue. Rather than having characters state their feelings outright, allow them to speak around what they truly mean. This technique adds depth to the conversation and allows readers to pick up on the unspoken emotions or secrets behind the surface. Remember, the reader, the more they get to infer, the more involved they are in the story. Now, don't get me wrong, if it's middle grade or like young adult, sometimes you got to spell it out for people. Not because they're quote unquote dumb. It's because of the age gap in a middle grader is not going to have life experiences or the comprehension skills of, say, like an adult. They could. There are the outliers, but what I'm saying is, when you write middle grade and young adult, usually you spell things out. Like that's just part of the genre. It's one of the requirements. You don't want to get too 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 subtexty, but you still want subtext in there. But still, nonetheless. However, I will say, instead of having a character admit they're scared, they might say, "No, no, I'm fine. It's just, I just don't like, surprises. They make me nervous. Just saying, we shouldn't go in there." The hesitation and the indirectness allows for the character to develop and real, but it also creates the tension. It creates because are they truly fine? No, no, no. I just don't like surprises, right? Yeah, they're saying I don't like surprises, but what's really true is no, no, they are scared. They want to get out of there. Okay. A really strong skill set of writing is escalating the stakes gradually. Okay. You want to inform the reader of context, of what information is provided. What are the stakes? The stakes are so important. The stakes are just whatever the information is to be revealed. What is the potential fallout for that information being revealed or exposed, or whatever the case may be? Somebody going into a room has stakes. What are the consequences of going in that room? What is the consequence? What is the stakes, right? So you want to escalate the stakes gradually. So building stakes in dialogue is about gradually increasing the intensity of the conversation. You want to start with a small agreement. You want to start with a small disagreement or a subtle tension and let it grow as dialogue progresses. Now, characters might interrupt each other, they might raise their voices, or use potential language to make their position clear. The escalation should feel organic, with each line adding more pressure until something has to give, whether it's a revelation, an emotional outburst, or a decision that changes the course of the narrative forever. Now, number 4 is going to be allow moments of silence. Silence through dialogue is very powerful. Now, silence in general is very powerful, but silence in dialogue is as powerful as words when building stakes and tension. All right. Often your characters allow your characters to hesitate, let their words hang in the air, or simply stop when the emotions become too much. These pauses give weight to what's being said and allow readers to feel the tension that's bubbling beneath the surface. Now, moments of silence can indicate fear, realization, or a character deciding how much they're willing to reveal. Finally, but not least, make every line count. In conflict driven dialogue, every line should serve a purpose, whether it's pushing the plot forward, revealing characters, development, and motivations, or heightening the tensions. So, you want to avoid filler lines that don't contribute to the scene. Each line should either escalate the conflict, reveal a hidden truth, or add emotional depth. This keeps the dialogue tight and ensures that the stakes remain high throughout the conversation. This rule is different than the every line must contain one or more of these three elements: plot, character development, or world building. One or more of those. So it could have one, two, or three, whatever the case may be. Every line needs to have that for it to be a valuable line. When it comes to building tension and conflict and stakes and all that, every line should be pushing that plot forward in some way or another. It should either push the plot forward, add to the character, build the tension, whatever the case may be. It needs to do something. It has to move. You cannot just put a line in there because, it's a connector line. Remember, your word count is your budget. So, what are you willing to spend your budget on? Okay. All right. Now, these are three techniques that can make a conversation feel natural while still carrying the weight of unspoken emotions and motivations. Let the dialogue reflect real speech patterns, okay, just like I did. That's it. That's the lesson. All right. To make conversations feel natural, let dialogue reflect how people actually speak. Use contradictions, interruptions, and occasional incomplete sentences. Not every line needs to be perfectly polished. By incorporating hesitations, interruptions, and pauses, you create the impression of real conversation, all while allowing underlying emotions to linger beneath the surface. This helps maintain a natural flow while letting the unspoken emotions simmer. We said it earlier, use subtext to add layers. Make sure that characters speak in ways that hint at their true feelings rather than directly expressing the fact that they hate somebody. For example, a character might respond with sarcasm or deflect a question when they're feeling vulnerable. Where were you? You ate the cereal. Oh, me? Yeah, like I ate the cereal. I was out somewhere doing something, I think. You want to balance dialogue with actions. This is so very important. This is a very strong tip for what I do this. I try to get away from dialogue tags. He said, she said. I use those for clarity rarely. If I could, I would take them all out. I try to use action beats and movement to dictate who is speaking. But action beats are not necessarily dialogue tags, but they are something that helps break up or control the pace. And it also helps with adding tension and resolution. So action beats between lines of dialogue can make conversation feel more natural while conveying unspoken emotions. These small actions, like a character nervously tapping their fingers or avoiding eye contact, help illustrate what a character is feeling without having to state it directly. Now, I will say this, action beats also help to pace the conversation, giving characters a chance to react and letting emotions build subtly through the scenes. But more importantly, it's letting the reader It's letting the reader react, and it's also giving them a chance to pay attention to what's happening, okay, and absorb it. Like, ooh, not saying like stop the book or pause the book, but a simple 3-4 word long sentence there of action can really help make that moment stand out. Because sometimes you don't want to just be like, here's a lot of important stuff that's dialogue. The audience needs this. Well, sometimes they need a little bit here, an action beat that doesn't really take a lot to think about, a little bit here, a little bit here, maybe a back and forth, a little bit here. That's how you really connect with it's not necessarily about how much information can I push onto the reader because I feel they need to know it. Well, they do need to know it, but that doesn't mean they need to know all of it right this second. Let it breathe, okay? All right. Example. All right, let's do this. Okay, so this example is going to have a bunch of stuff. It's going to have, let the dialogue reflect real speech patterns. It's going to have the subtext. It's going to have balance. We're going to try to make every line count. Let's see if we succeed. I wrote this previously. I have a couple more videos I got to film, and I'm trying to film them all to have my entire batch done. We're trying something new. By the time you hear this video, though, it had already started. Not that. All right, moving on. Moving on. You don't care about this. All right. So, example. Here we go. Are you sure this is the right move? Emma asked, her voice edged with doubt. She stood by the window, her gaze focused on the city lights outside. Her fingers drummed nervously against the sill. Her back turned to Michael. Michael looked up from the map sprawled across the table, his jaw tightened. Why are you asking me that now? He replied, his tone clipped. He tried to keep his voice steady, but the frustration slipped through. He knew what was going on, what she was doing, pushing at the cracks, teasing him. We've already gone over this. There's no other options. Emma hesitated, the silence hanging between them, thick and heavy. She turned slowly, her eyes searching his face. I don't want us to regret this, she said, her words softer now, a hint of vulnerability beneath the surface. Michael clenched his fist, his gaze dropping to the table. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to keep his composure. You think I want this? He said, his voice barely above a whisper. You think I haven't thought about every possible outcome? Emma opened her mouth to respond, but stopped herself. The words caught in her throat, unspoken. She looked away, her expression unreadable. The silence stretched on, the weight of everything unsaid, pressing down on them both. Michael could feel the tension building, the room growling smaller with every passing second. He pushed away from the table, crossing the room in a few quick strides. We don't have time for doubts, Emma, he said, his voice firm now. He stopped in front of her, his eyes locked on hers. If we don't act now, we lose everything. Emma looked up at him, her lips pressing into a thin line. And if we're wrong, she asked, her voice trembling. Her eyes held his, the unspoken question hanging between them. What if this was the end? What if there was no coming back from this? Oh, all right. It's only a page long, but let's break this stuff down, okay? Are you sure this is the right move? Emma asked, her voice edged with doubt. Okay. All right. So, characters' goals clash. She is unsure, and Michael is going to end up being sure, but she is questioning. Okay. There is a subtle reveal to hidden truths. Are you sure this is the right move? So the audience is slowly learning that they're about to make a choice, but they don't know what it is. So they're given some context. We're going to escalate the stakes gradually. We don't know exactly what it is, but we are going to find out. Emma, her voice edged with it. She stood by the window, her gaze focused on the outside. All right, real quick. She stood by the window, her gaze focused on the outside. Now we're allowing moments of silence. Okay. We're making every line count so far. Are you sure this is the right move? This is building some plot. This is character. This is definitely character development. Her fingers drummed against the walls. Back to Michael. Michael. This is plot and character, but it's also balancing Dialogue with action beats. Okay. Okay. Now, Michael looks up at the sprawling table. Across his jaws tighten. Okay. Why are you asking me that now? He replied, his tone clipped. They are literally clashing. They are. He is. What do you mean? You're questioning? You got to trust me. That's the undertone, which is subtext. Okay. He tried to keep his voice steady, but the frustration slipped through. Ooh. Whoops. Son of a, son of a bitch. All right. Son of a bitch. He tried to keep his voice steady, but the frustration slipped through. This is obviously silence. This is silence, right? We're slowly escalating. They are back and forth. All right. The lines are still counting. He knew what she was doing, pushing at the cracks, testing him, I should say. I should say testing him. All right. So this is more. This is more of the goals are clashing. There is definitely subtext under there, even though because it's his perspective of what's going on. We know that they are not on the same page here, and yeah. All right. Okay. Boop. Now we've already gone over this. There's no other option. So this continues to build the stakes, by the way, because it is allowing the stakes to be somewhat subtle. All right. Now, as it goes through, you're going to learn more and more. But in reality, the real narrative movement is the relationship. It's about, look, it doesn't matter. All right. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter that they have to get the MacGuffin. It doesn't matter that they're going to save the world. Like, none of that matters, right? When you think of narrative, plot is just the things that have to happen. It doesn't matter who's there. You could take somebody out and put somebody back in, and the plot is still going to plot. And you might be saying, no, that's not true, because people change the outcome of the plot. They don't change the outcome of the plot. They change the outcome of the story. That is because character is what drives a narrative. Plot is what needs to happen. You could literally change all the human beings and make them animals. If you don't believe me, then go watch Madagascar. If you don't believe me, watch a Pixar movie. Wall-E is not human. The thing that is there can be switched out, and the plot is going to plot. But the characters that you put in there and the relationships that are going back and forth, Wally and the girl, the other, the white, I think it's a white robot. It's been a while since, but anyway, they have a relationship, and Wally is also pretty much not dialogue driven. So it's how they behave, and it's the fact that those two characters were chosen to be put into that plot that make us move through the narrative emotionally. We are experiencing it through them. So in every narrative, you want to make sure that the characters are interesting. They don't have to be like, Emma doesn't have to be a wizard, and Michael doesn't have to be a god from the planet of right? That none of that matters either. It's the behavior, it's their motivations, it's their positions. But you're saying, yeah, but a god would be interesting. No, the god part isn't interesting. The part that's interesting is how the god behaves. The part that's interesting is their positions. Like you might see like a god, right? And who's more interesting? The god of silence that just sits there and doesn't do anything? Well, they're a god, though. You said they're a god. They should be interesting. Or the god that is battling the concept of immortality and omniscience, and they know everything, and they're just trying to relate to mortality. So, they hang out, they go and they hang out at like, a frat house, and they're hanging out with just some like college kids and just watching them party and trying to get involved with it. And they go from this to this like, oh yeah, let's play some pong. Right now, now we're creating movement. There's intrigue, right? It doesn't matter what they are. It doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, whatever your race, you're black, you're white, you're Spanish. None of that matters. Okay, what matters is inside and the characters. Once you have that strong, then yeah, make them all women, make them all black, make them all robots, make them all gods, make them all whatever you want. You can make them all fish. I don't know if you've ever seen Finding Nemo. Because it doesn't necessarily matter what we are on the outside. Because again, you might be saying, no, that's not true. If they're black, no, culture is internal. It's part of what is your makeup, and then you represent that makeup through presentation. So I'm Sicilian, right? But I don't dress or act like my Sicilian, like some of my older generation of Sicilian family, with the necklaces and the ring, the pinky ring, and the way they do their hair and all this stuff, right? I have well, I can't say modern because I'm actually a generation. I'm Generation X. But during my generation, that was my cultural influence. So the way I dressed, the way I represented myself, the way I behaved, right? So culture is not this, like my skin or the fact that I'm a guy. The culture is inward being represented outward. So that it becomes your positions. So focus on character interaction, and your narratives will move fluidly through emotional growth. Anyway, with that said, let's just look at this last paragraph. Emma hesitated. The silence hang. Well, that's literally a moment of silence. Okay. She turned slowly, her eyes searching his face. Okay. And then I don't want us to regret this, she said, her words soft now, a hint of vulnerability. All right. Nope. So there's a lot going on, and there's a little bit of there's some action, there's some hesitation. Okay. We're letting we're reflecting some real life speech patterns. I don't know. I want us to regret this. I don't want us to regret this. Anyway. Let's get it done. Avoid quiet resolve. Anyway. All right. So there you go. And by the way, if you look at the sentences, see, that's why I like coloring the things. You could see that the sentences vary in lengths, and that's also important. Anyway. All right. Final thoughts. Oh my God. Final thoughts. Use dialogue to build conflict. That's it. Now, use dialogue to build conflict, and you'll allow yourself to really move and push back against your characters, their positions, their motivations, etc. It's about letting characters' words and silence speak volumes, revealing their desires, fears, and true selves in the midst of tense exchanges. Remember, conflict in dialogue doesn't always have to be loud or obvious. Sometimes the most powerful moments come from what isn't said, from the subtle tension simmering beneath the surface. That tension is what the readers are at least privy to through context. However, the characters themselves have not resolved the tension. Tension builds by you, the reader, knowing just enough to follow through and being like, what's going to happen? What is going on? That's it. That's really, like, for example, I don't have, if I had like a box with me and I get the box and I'm like, all right, this is my great uncle's box. I just found it. I don't know what's in it, but I'm looking for the deed to the house because we're going to lose it in the estate sale. I can't open it up. There's still tension. And then I open it up and it's in there. Tension would be relieved. All right. Yep. Okay, anyway. So there you go. All right. Next video in the series, Actions Speak Louder Than Words playlist, dialogue and character development. How to use dialogue to reveal a character's backstory, fears, and desires naturally without resulting in exposition. Oh, I should say exposition for exposition's sake. Like, this is just exposition. Anyway, question. Do you find it easy to create conflict through conversations, Or is it something you're working to improve? Well, let me know in the comments below. If you haven't done so already and you like what you've been watching, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. And of course, a thumbs up is always nice. I guess that's it. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. Keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.